Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for April 24th. It's Wednesday. We got Nick Borrman on the podcast, and we're breaking down all of tonight's MLS games on the soccer pitch. Nick, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Drew. I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Is it correct to call it a soccer pitch?
Yes, absolutely. That is the term we use in the industry. The pitch.
Even though it's the MLS, it's not EPL, it wouldn't change?
Nope, still a soccer pitch. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and even down in Mexico, South America, it's the pitch?
Yeah, you won't hear it referred to by many, I guess, Americans necessarily as the pitch. They'll just say the soccer field, but it's still definitely called the pitch.
Good to know, man. That's always very important stuff. Nick Borrman hit his 5%er last week on Friday night, so congrats to everybody that jumped on that. We got 5 games coming up now, and we'll break them all down right here on the podcast. We got Chicago at New York City Football Club, home favorites of minus 0.75 goals, total at 2.75, Nick.
Yeah, so we got 5 games going on tonight, actually, Wednesday night midweek tables. This first match, we have Chicago and New York. Chicago, last week, they made easy work of Colorado, winning 4-1. Last week in our pod, I previewed both Chicago and the over, actually, as recommendations in that game, but I was a little wrong. I said the final score would be 3-1. It ended up being 4-1, so sorry for any exact score bettors out there, but was nice to hit both sides of that one. Chicago is a solid team for sure this year, but Colorado is just that bad. So, can't give a lot to Chicago in that one. But now here on short rest as they travel to New York City, I think it'll be a tough task for them. Anytime you look at stats in the MLS teams traveling on short rest, I mean, we already talked about it a million times, but road teams in the MLS in general are tough, but on short rest is even worse. And last week, I didn't really give a prediction on New York's game. They were at D.C., and I thought that game was too close to call. But they actually went in there and won 2-0, which I did not expect to see. I thought it was going to be close. I knew, it could go either way, but I honestly didn't expect them to win that game. And they played well. They were clearly the better team. They even missed a penalty, so that score could have been worse. And no, it wasn't a Panenka penalty, but they did miss a penalty in that game. That was their first win of the year, surprisingly enough. They had 5 draws to start the year and 1 loss, so finally got that monkey off their back. And who knows? I think it might be that spark they need to get this team going, so we'll see. Their new signee from Romania, Alex Mitrita, he looked great in that match and scored his second goal of the year. So New York has yet to win at home this year, but I think they're going to be able to get it done tonight. Like I said, it's always tough to travel on short rest for Chicago, and historically in all 5 meetings in New York City, Chicago has yet to win. And they have 3 straight losses each of the last 3 years at New York. So I like New York in this game. There's not necessarily huge value here on the line at minus 0.75, but New York is definitely the team I would back in this game. The money line or the 3-way line is a little too high for me right now at minus 150, so I would stick to the minus 0.75, but probably don't go crazy on it. But New York in this one, Drew.
All right, good stuff, Nick. And you bring up the Panenka penalty kicks, and that's where you run up and just kick it slow right at the goalie, and he dives one way or the other. If you don't see it a lot, you should Google it. I have, and it's a really funny thing. Nick put me onto it. So, and guys, we're talking with Nick Borrman. He's been good in soccer, MLS, also does golf as well. Check out his page on sportsmemo.com. Always got a free play up. He does have a Wednesday night MLS total play up, and totals have been good since February 26th, 48 and 29. That's over 60% on all soccer totals. He's hitting 58%, and that's 142 and 104. So near 60% on all totals. In Nick, is totals something that you just feel more comfortable with? Do you think that there's more of an angle to win for the sports bettor, or what do you think your success in totals is so far?
That's a good question. I think it's just all numbers driven. I do a lot of data analysis on total shots taken, shots off goal, shots on goal, shots blocked, converted shots. You got to look at expected goals, which is a newer stat out there. Somebody shoots with their strong foot 6 yards in the box, they're obviously a lot more likely to score that than they are from 20 yards out. So, you got to look at all the different shot numbers, and then basically I kind of, I take those numbers, plug them in, see what the averages are. Generally, most leagues you're seeing 1 goal for every 3 shots on goal. So you kind of crunch that in there. You try to make a prediction on what kind of shot numbers you're going to see from both teams combined. And, over time, the numbers work to the mean, and you might go through a winning stretch, you might go through a losing stretch, which is true anywhere, but they tend to work pretty well on just volume. So I think that's really it. Sometimes a side play, one lucky bounce can change what should be a surefire winner into a loser pretty quick. But on totals, usually you were already going to win it or you were already going to lose it because you were on the over-under, and that little extra bounce that went one way or the other doesn't truly affect you as much. So I think that's the reason I'm having a little bit better luck on totals. So hopefully we'll keep that going.
All right, good stuff, Nick. And guys, if you're soccer fans out there, MLS, Premier League, he's a great guy to check out on sportsmemo.com. We also do a podcast every Wednesday. We'll be doing this throughout the summer on all things soccer, throwing some golf as well. So if you like the podcast with Nick, this is a staple on Wednesdays. We'll be doing it throughout the summer. And a coupon code MLS3 will give you his 3-day all soccer pass for just $19. So big discount there for Nick's soccer pass on sportsmemo.com. That's MLS3 at checkout for his 3-day all access. Let's move to the next game up. DC United at Columbus. Columbus minus 0.75 favorites. Total at 2.5.
Yeah, both teams coming off of surprising losses here. DC, as we just mentioned, lost 0-2 at home against New York City, and they now actually have just one win in their last 4 games after starting the year with 3 wins and a draw in their first 4 games. But in a rather weak Eastern Conference, they actually still sit atop the standings with 14 points, and it's really congested up top right now. So this will be a fun, I guess, season to watch how these teams can, drop 2, 3, maybe even more positions in the table after just 1 week. Oddly, they are unbeaten on the road this year with 2 wins and a draw, which, considering how bad they were away from home last year, is a good thing for this team to see, of course. However, the 2 wins came against Colorado and Orlando, 2 low-end non-playoff teams from last year, and they were lucky to draw at New York City in their other game, which they were clearly overmatched in that game. Columbus is a solid defensive team, but they gave up 3 goals to Portland at home last weekend. I was actually on the under in that game because Columbus is always a defensive, specialist team, and if you look at their numbers over the year, they do a great job on the back end. And of course, Portland, that was their first win of the year. They were playing horrible, so that was definitely a surprise result I didn't see coming. And Columbus now has lost back-to-back games for the first time this year. They're in big trouble if their defense plays like they did against Portland, because, like I said, they're always a defensive team, and their offense it's always a slower paced team. They don't put up nearly as much volume as some of the other teams, and they rely on their back line and their keeper, Zach Steffen. So if they're struggling on the back line, they're in for a long couple weeks until they get that squared away. So this is a tough call for this one. I don't see a ton of value on the side or total here. Personally, probably keeping my money in my pocket on this one, but gun to my head, I would side with the under. As DC has struggled against strong possession teams like Columbus, and I would expect Columbus to clean up their defensive issues from last game. But personally, I'm going to keep my money in my pocket on this one.
All right, Nick, next game up, Montreal at New England. New England half-goal favorites at home, total at 2.5.
Yeah, I like New England here to make it back-to-back wins for the first time this year. They beat the struggling Red Bulls 1-0 last weekend and have now won 2 of their last 3 at home. But much of this recommendation for me is on the fact that Montreal, they just lost 0-3 at Philly in their last match, and they look like they just had nothing on the creative end for scoring chances. They're clearly missing their best player, Ignacio Piatti, who's been out for 5 weeks now due to injury, and he's, of course, out again this match. Without him up front, they've just been struggling to score. They won 2 of their first 3 games with Piatti in the lineup, scoring in every game, and actually scored a total of 6 goals over those first 3 games. But since he's been out, they've managed just 2 total goals in their last 5 games combined. Remarkably, though, they've actually managed to win and 2 draws during that span, so they've been doing okay on the defensive end. But they have also struggled against New England over the years. In the last 7 head-to-head meetings, New England has 6 wins compared to just 1 for Montreal. And New England actually has 4 straight home wins over the Impact. And Montreal has not scored a single goal in any of those games. So the fact that kind of history has given Montreal struggles when traveling to New England, and the fact that their best player is out of the lineup here, and they look like they just cannot get anything going offensively right now. I like New England here. I think they can make it 5 wins in a row against Montreal at home tonight, and depending on where you see them at the better line, you should see a minus 0.5 price or on the three-way or money line option, whatever price your book offers at a better price. Go ahead and take that one.
All right, Nick, 2 games left, and guys, the coupon code MLS3 for Nick Borman's 3-day soccer pass. That's $30 off. Normally $49 for a 3-day pass. You can get it for just $19 with the podcast exclusive coupon MLS3 at checkout. LA Galaxy at Minnesota. Minnesota, the least of the favorites being at home, just minus 0.25 at home. That's telling me the LA Galaxy are likely the more talented team here, Nick. Total of 3.25.
Yeah, you're right on the money there, Drew. The Galaxy, they're playing great. They're on a 5-game win streak thanks to Zlatan, who we always like to talk about, doing what he does up front. He's now scored 7 goals in 5 matches this year. He missed 2 games earlier due to injury, but 7 goals in 5 games is awesome. He's drawing penalties. He's converting penalties. He's just a big presence up front for that team. And, of course, that's nothing new for them. They had the same offensive success last year with him in the lineup, but the difference this year has been their defense, which has really stepped up. They've conceded just 4 goals in their 5-game win streak and have kept 2 clean sheets during that period, which if you look at last year's numbers, they were really bad on the back line. So it's very promising for this team to see the improvement on the defensive end. When you talk about Minnesota, the first thing I always look at is their totals, because they are a team that loves to score and loves to concede, and I always try to see if there's value on the over. The last weekend, you mentioned my 5% win. I took Minnesota in Toronto going over the total, and that game ended with a total of 7 goals. It was just a shootout. So, the one thing about that game, though, that Minnesota had, and they've always struggled with, is they actually had to lead twice in that game against Toronto and ended up losing 4-3. And that seems to be, one of their biggest weaknesses. So, it's hard to back a team that can't hold on to leads. And, the fact that the Galaxy have really been playing much, much better on defense, I'm going to avoid the total on this one. But I think there's a ton of value in riding with the Galaxy's hot streak. Minnesota has never beaten the Galaxy in 5 meetings all time, because Minnesota is a newer team in the league. The Galaxy have beaten them 4 times with 1 draw in their short history together. The Galaxy are actually plus 210, right around that number, on the money line or the 3-way line right now. And I think there's a ton of value in grabbing them there. So you can play it safe here, take the Galaxy at plus 0.25 and get a half a win on your draw. But I think there's a great value in the number of taking them to win at plus 210 in this one.
Good stuff, Nick. Last game up, San Jose at Seattle. Seattle heavy favorites here, more than a goal, minus 1.25. Another high total as we creep up over 3, total of 3.25, Nick.
Yep, you hit on the head. Big number here. But the trend is it's actually going towards San Jose's side. Seattle started the year super hot. They've won 5 of their first 6 games, but were beaten pretty handily at LAFC last weekend, which isn't necessarily a bad loss. It's Seattle's still a good team. LAFC has just been playing that great this year. But after covering this number in their first 3 games of the year, Seattle has not covered this number in their last 4, as they have 2 1-goal wins, a draw, and a loss during that span. San Jose, on the other hand, could do no right to start the year. I know we faded them a couple times, free plays over the first couple weeks. They lost their first 4 games, conceding a total of 14 goals and scored just 2 to start the year. But they were going through some major tactical changes. Their manager has them playing this kind of marking system, which is a little bit different for them, where they're singling out players and doing matchups, almost like instead of playing like a zone defense like you would in basketball, they're playing kind of a man-to-man type of a defense, which anytime you make a tactical change like that, it takes a while to adjust. And is it a fluke those last couple wins, or is it them getting used to the adjustments? I think they're starting to get used to them, and they've won 2 of their last 3 games, beating Portland and Kansas City, who's a solid team, and they lost by 1 goal at Houston. So they've now covered this number in 3 straight games. Seattle, definitely the better team here, but I think we're going to see a little bit closer game than the number indicates. Historically, between the teams, San Jose has covered this number in 5 of the last 6. And I think they can do it again here tonight. They may catch Seattle a little off guard early, and if they can score early, I think this will be an easy win. So don't go big here, but I do like the Earthquakes catching plus 1.25 in this one, Drew.
All right, Nick. And guys, check out Nick Borman's page on sportsmemo.com. He's got a free play coming up here on the podcast. He's 48-29, all totals since February 26th. Soccer totals lifetime 142 and 104. Got a niche here, 58% lifetime. So winning rate there on sportsmemo.com. He's got his Wednesday night MLS total of the day up. Also some Premier League action coming this weekend. Also looks like some MLS action this weekend as well, so stay tuned to that. Also, the coupon code MLS3 at checkout gives you his 3-day all soccer pass for just $19. That's $30 off the regular price of $49. MLS3 at checkout for his 3-day all soccer pass for just $19. Nick, did you want to throw out a Premier League free play?
Yeah, quick free play here for the Premier League. We don't have the MLS lines out for this weekend until after tonight's games go. So looking ahead to the Premier League this week, there's only 3 weeks left remaining in the season. So one thing you got to be careful of here is there are a lot of teams, actually about half the teams right now, that have nothing to play for. Teams number 7 through 14 in the table are either too far below the top 6 to earn a European qualification, or they're too far ahead of the relegation zone to have any worry about being promoted or relegated down to the championship next year. So one game I like here is Burnley at home catching 2.25 goals, so plus 2.25 against Man City. Man City is in one of the closest title races in the Premier League in quite some time. They're just 2 points behind Liverpool, but they actually have a game in hand, meaning they got one more game to play than Liverpool does. If they win out, they will be the champions again. But their biggest hurdle is actually today. They have a match against Manchester United today at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So that game should be on NBC Sports Network. You can catch that today. So a lot of their results for the end of the season will result on this game, because their next 3 games, including the Burnley game, are all rather easy for them. But I'm not placing a lot of this play on what happens today. I think we'll see Burnley play this one tough. They technically are 1 point shy of being guaranteed to stay in the Premier League, so they still need to get one more point to guarantee that spot. So I don't expect them to lay down here. Last week they were able to draw 2-2 at Chelsea, and they've won their 3 straight games before that match, so they're unbeaten in their last 4. I don't necessarily think they're going to come in and win this match. City is, we've reviewed it before, but they're one of the best teams in the world. And they did beat Burnley 5-0 in the reverse fixture at home earlier this year. But Burnley has only lost against this number 3 times this entire year, and really have been playing much better the second half of the season. Since the start of 2019, this calendar year, there are 8 wins, 4 draws, and 5 losses overall in all competitions. Like I said, City's stacked up and down the roster, but they are not covering numbers like this very often. They've not covered this number in their last 8 games, and they've only covered it once in their last 14 games overall, and that was at home. So I like Burnley to keep this one a lot closer than the line suggests. Plus 2.25, I think, has a ton of value here. So that's my official free play for this weekend, Drew.
Nick, best of luck with that. Best of luck with your bets this week. And guys, remember the coupon code MLS3 at checkout. $19 for this 3-day all-access. Try them out at sportsmemo.com. We'll have Nick on every Wednesday throughout the summer talking MLS, also some golf in there. So guys, thanks for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow with Robbie Vino breaking down some NBA and MLB. So thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets.